Hi, book club members. I'm Jen.
And I'm Carrie.
And this is Warhammer 40k Book Club, where we read from a crack. This is episode number 106, and our book is The King of the Spoil by Jonathan D. Beer. It is about a murder mystery of sorts, a gang uprising, if you will, deep in the heart of Varangantua. We posted several questions on our website, WH40kbookclub.com, and we encourage participation in our conversations via YouTube, our site, or Encrypted Box channel. Spoiler warning, if you haven't yet read this book, definitely check out this book before watching this episode, as we're going to be discussing the details from start to finish. And it's like a mystery. It's a crime. Who done it? It's a noir. Don't spoil it. Let's dive in. Did you like the book?
I did. It's not great, but I really did, and it actually hit me very emotionally in areas I wasn't expecting.
I cannot wait to hear about this. Okay, you know what? That's a good way to describe it. I liked it. I didn't love it. It wasn't great. There are some things that I really have a complaint about, which we'll talk about here tonight. But I really did enjoy a lot of it. And we're going to talk a lot about the spoil as like a setting and as a character in and of itself, because I have a lot of feelings about this. I really like getting these little zoom in views of hive worlds. So yeah, it's a good way to put it.
So,
I liked it.
did you read the 2 short stories that he wrote about the spoil before this?
I did not, no.
So, one of the readers recommended that we do that. And I read both of those short stories before I hopped into this, and I really am glad I did. One was just a story about life in the spoil, and then the other one was about Melita. It's actually about before she's part of the Valteri.
I'm pulling them up right now to have them to read after this. Chains. Oh God, they're in.
One's in like Sin and Sanction, or Sanction and Sin, and the other one's in Broken City.
Broken City. Yeah, I have both of those collections. Mayhaps I shall go read those after this. I don't know how I missed that. Yeah, I mean, again, I really enjoy Varangantua as a setting. I think it's super neat. We're going to talk a lot more about it here, but I really want to hear the emotional stuff. What parts stood out to you? What hit you in the feelers?
Honestly, it was there was 2 things, and it was with Haska's story. One was on page 209 when Haska's like, we're not going to go join Sates. I don't know how you say his name. I'll just say Sates. We're not going to go join Sates in his revolution because he just doesn't feel wrong with that. And she, comes to terms like, I'm afraid. Like, everything we've done was to look cool, but we're actually afraid. And, but then she hears her mother basically coughing herself to death. And she realizes, I'm either going to die like her, where I'm worked to death and nobody cares because I'm being slowly poisoned, or at least I can go out and die fighting for a cause. And that hit me so hard because it's like, to me, that's like, isn't that Warhammer 40k in a nutshell? Like, this is exactly why I would never want to live there. I don't want to live in this universe because these are your choices. You're worked to death or you fight and die.
Either way, you're probably dying young.
Exactly. Unless you happen to be, in the upclaves, the upper hives, and you're rich and everything, but then you're like hooked on drugs and stuff, so you're going to die young anyway, unless you do a lot of rejuvenate treatments. It's not a good existence, like, no matter what you do. And then other thing that hit me was it was after Leonida died, and that kind of hits her hard, even though she just met the woman like that night, but it still hit her hard. And she's having to go now to the big meeting with Sates and like the other, generals and stuff. And she sees that he's another corporate shill. And how that affected her, the hypocrisy. And you know why this hit me? Because this feels like this is like a parallel to what's going on in the universe, like at least like in our society, like right now. You have these people with these grand causes and gestures, and they want to do all these things, and it turns out they're just another corporate shill who's just trying to control you. So that
just part of the oligarchy.
Yeah, it hit so hard. just to force regular people who just want to survive on a daily basis into control and compliance. It's not just the spoil. It's not just, in the 40K universe. Like, it's happening right now. And whether he meant that to be a parallel or not, it really hit me hard.
I will actually agree with you on that. And which will be surprising because we're going to talk a lot about Haska later. But that piece, because for a minute there, for like a hot minute, she's kind of rah, right? Like, yeah, we're going to do this. And I'm going to I'm going to avenge Leonida and blah, 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 blah. Like, she's kind of like, ah. And then she sees that, and it's just this kind of pullback of the veil because his whole thing is he's kind of this firebrand, right? We're going to cast off the shackles of this cartel that looks down on us. And
who's not even from here. We're going to take back our own domain. And then he's being funded by someone that's also not from the spoil.
And when she sees that, and she's just like, oh, you're just a puppet of a different oligarch.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, not your oligarch. Your oligarchy's bad. Mine's good, though.
Right.
Like, that's essentially the argument that's being made here. And I do like that. I loved that moment as well. And that was actually the thing. Because, again, we'll talk more about Haska. But that part helped me connect with her. It's like, damn. That's kind of your life, man.
Which is funny because, I didn't like her as a character for many reasons, but there were so many things like what she was experiencing that hit me hard. There's actually very few characters. It's funny because there's very few characters in this book I like, but at the same time, but the book still resonated with me, which I kind of liked. And I don't think we're supposed to really like anybody because everyone is so flawed because they're people.
Well, that's the thing that I liked about it. It
poor.
actually kind of made them real. Like, probably the closest to like a good person you could get to would be Edie or Eddie, as I was calling him, because Edie is short for Edith.
I was saying Eddie.
Yeah, I was saying Eddie too.
Eddie,
even though that's
yes. And
but even he has a certain morally casual attitude to some of the stuff that's happening in the spoil, right?
I was even thinking Maddox until the end.
Kind of weird how that works. I had the same thought as well, where I was like, oh, no, this guy's good. This guy. Oh, I mean, but again, just a flawed person, just another cog in the machine that makes all of this work. So let's talk about and Rogel Dorn has come to join us this evening, the Primarch. He's returned, hands and all. So what did you think of the spoil as a setting? So one of the cool things that I like about the Hive worlds are that they're so big and they're so gargantuan. Very gargantua, anyone?
Mm-hmm.
They're so gargantuan that you could have all of these little fiefdoms within it, and they can be wholly different. They can be very much the same. Like, I love Necromunda for that reason. I'm very intrigued by the Hive worlds of Warhammer 40k, and so a nice romp through a hive was very much what I liked. What did you think of the setting, the people, the mood?
Dirty. That's all I could think of. It's just like you think about like the dirty back alleys of a big city. That's all I could think of.
Yeah, like there's a smell this area of the world, I'm guessing. When they talk about how hot it is, when they talk about when they're talking about their hab and like how it's basically flak board
right
in between, which I'm doing this because that's all I can think of as like a composite board IKEA table that you've broken. It just everything is cheap and effective, right? And it's squalor.
Mm-hmm.
But these people are still making their living there and they're still going about their lives. And as you said, trying to figure out their destiny. But that's really what your destiny is. Do you burn fast and bright in a gang? Or do you go labor long in some sweatshop, stealing what you can and trying to hustle and have side hustles on the side? Like it's all very grim, you might say.
Yeah, well, this is the grimdark, right?
Exactly. But it works well, this idea of that much humanity put on, and the fact that, yeah, it's hard for me, especially, because when you just talk about the scale of these areas. So they talk about the spoil and how it's this little small area, but then they describe like the battle that goes through this area. Probably not as small as you're thinking, right?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Like, it was small, but I think that the area that they were fighting, there was the contrast, right? It's small. We're fighting over these habs. But then when we get to the church of, St. Eurydice, how big it is. They have farms. They have groks. All of this stuff that they're not sharing or like even like selling for the people of the spoil to eat and drink.
The scene with the fruit
Yeah.
really made me sad. And to your point, again, it's this inequity, right, that you see in these hive worlds between even within their own hive. Like they always talk about like, oh, the upclavers and the gilded, but then even within their own area, there's people who have access to much better stuff, but they're not sharing it because they fought and killed for and got their own. Like you need to work your way up to the top of the food pyramid if you want to be up here with the fruit.
Well, I mean, but it's almost not even that. Like, it's not to me like, okay, they don't share it, but they don't even try to sell it. They don't even try to trade. That's the disgusting part. Like, you don't want to give it away. Okay, I get that. Fine. We can't get something for nothing, but you got people who are willing to trade, willing to do service for this food, and you won't even do that.
Well, and that's
And all
it,
the
that's
slate
where
in the
it comes
world,
into
that's the thing. Like, they could get all the slate in the world, right? They're still not getting that fruit. They're getting more carb bars.
right. It's again the fact that you get to the top of the spoil and you just start acting like the gilded.
Right.
I mean, in your own cutely charming way to the gilded, right? But that is as a setting, the despair. The despair in this book is palpable. And just this idea of scraping by and not having anything. And then the other thing that's interesting is how striated the the society is, right? Like when Melita and Eddie show up in that very first scene when they
Mm-hmm.
show up and they immediately know, oh, you're upclavers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just know. And when Haska sees Sights talking with those guys, she's just like, they're not from here. Like I just know. It's it's interesting. Again, just these little hallmarks of their society and how rigid it is
Mm-hmm.
while also being chaotic and anarchical.
Right.
So let's talk about Melita as a protagonist. Did you like her? Was she good at her job? Was she a good character? Did you resonate with her?
No. As mainly because just her being such a drug addict. That's hard. And I don't want to hear that, oh, but her parents were killed. Okay. So is everybody else in this area. All right. So,
Pain is ordinary.
exactly. And yet, okay. So to be a good, info broker, she needs to stay up all night. I've heard these excuses with the Imperium so many times. Oh, I have to be alert, so I need all these stems. No, you don't. That's a choice that you are making. And the fact that you are getting so addicted to these stems to the point you actually need to take a sleeper drug to get some sleep and then have to come out of it with another stem. So you didn't, since you didn't read the short story, there in her short story, there's a scene where she talks about where she was not off of her topaz yet, but she needed to take a sleeper. And she wakes up and she was like so thankful that she was sitting up because she had thrown up all over herself. Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah. So it's like at that point, like you're just making bad choices. So, with Eddie being like, I can't watch you do this anymore. And she's just like, it's so unfair. I'm fine. I'm fine. No, like, I'm
You're not
sorry. Like you're very good at your job. Yes. You're You are a good info broker. I'm not sure there's anything you could have done to have predicted what was happening, especially since it was an upclaver, coming in and handling this, especially when you find out who, killed the king of the spoil. Like, I'm not sure she could have, predicted that and the way things worked. And um, just, but is she a good person? No. She's so ready just to give up. All right, fine.
I think that was the thing that bothered me too, the drug addict part, because again, like when she talks about how, oh, well, I need to do this. Eddie's older than you and keeping the same schedule as you right now, currently, and he appears not to be on drugs. Like, it's just, if you've ever known somebody in your life who struggles with addiction, there's always a reason. There's always
Mm-hmm.
an excuse. There's always a, no, I'm fine. I'm in control. But I need this. Like, you don't understand what's going on with me that I need this. No, no, you made a choice and now you're just trying to justify it. And that was the one thing that really made me like Eddie even more, is that, yeah, he's a little morally ambiguous than the spoil. I would call him pragmatic. Um,
Yeah, that's a good
but
word for him.
he cares about Melita so much. He cares about Melita. And
And she
he,
treats him like shit half the time.
she does, but she does recognize, I did like when she gets very concerned when he's hurt and she recognizes that, don't need a father in my life, but I recognize that that's kind of the role that he's taken on. And she is kind of, so here's the thing that I didn't like about her that really did stand out to me. A, she's a drug addict, which the drug addiction says, I exist within Varangantua. I am a citizen of Varangantua, and this is just kind of the way things are, right? The fact that she was so incensed by any type of violence. Did you grow up in this hive or nah? Like,
Right.
and I'm not saying that everybody has to be cold and callous, but yeah, like when violence is kind of an everyday part of your life, you do start to get desensitized to it and inured to it. So the idea that she's just like all incensed every time she comes across anybody being violent, she's just like, oh, isn't there another way? Are you, do you exist within 40K or no? I can't tell.
Which is funny because, again, going back to the short story, she's that way too in that short story. And the whole short story is about the Valteri have a hit on all info brokers. So,
There you go.
yeah, she's, trying to figure out like what's actually happening, who's doing these killings, why are they killing info brokers, why do they think I might have something to do with this, who's actually doing it. But at the same time, there's like any violence and she just flips out. And it's like, hun, look at where you are, look at what you're fighting from. At the same time, like I understand that, you may not want to deal with this. Same time, you got a bodyguard, right? And they have him
Right.
for a reason.
Yeah, so clearly you recognize that nice words don't go very far in the spoil. That there's not a lot of people with whom you can just talk it out.
And the thing is,
Otherwise, you wouldn't have
she's
Eddie.
not even really in the spoil, right?
No.
So that makes it even more interesting.
Mm-hmm. This idea that, yeah, that was one thing with her character I really struggled with. And the addiction part. The addiction part makes her, and this is, I don't know if this is a failing on my part or not, but I just could not have a lot of sympathy for her. And
But again,
quite frankly,
I'm not sure we're supposed to.
that could be. I also didn't find her super great at her job. If you think about it, she kind of falls into everything. And her informant network isn't super great. She has Babbage, which it's like, oh, okay, you got one guy. And then she kind of falls into Bai. But otherwise, she kind of pieces things together on her own or falls into them. Like she stumbles across Maddox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's supposed to be this great info broker. And I agree with you. There was no way she could have predicted
Right.
what was going on here. I mean, everybody was like, what just happened? Yeah, I wasn't like, I didn't get the impression that she was the super confident and competent info broker either. She was just kind of a mid-level, but maybe that's also, I mean, these are just the denizens of the hive, right? Make
To
it a
be
living.
fair, in that short story, they might have killed the best info brokers.
like that scene in Death of Stalin. We killed all the good doctors.
Oh, yes.
Um, yes, one of my favorites. So we talked a little bit about Eddie and Maddox. Um, did you like them, and what was kind of their greater role, both within
You mean Melita?
Melita's? Huh?
You mean Melita? You said
No, no,
Maddox.
no. Yeah, Eddie and Maddox. So
Okay.
these are, I think, our two biggest support characters, and you and I kind of touched on this in terms of like before we get to Haska's whole story. What are their greater roles, both within the spoil, but also like within this story? Like Eddie is clearly her father figure, clearly cares about her. I really liked him as a character. What is Maddox's deal?
I think, honestly, well, at first, I thought he was just puritanical. You know, like he's not dumb. Like he was fairly certain that his Castellan was on the Valteri payroll, right? And he knows everybody around him is corrupt because he knows Varncantua is corrupt. But he's doing at the same time, he's very optimistic in that he's doing the best that he can to clean it up. And he knows very well that the death of can't remember his name, Sorokin.
Sorokin.
His death was not good because it makes basically everything like unstable. So while at the same time, like he wants to get the bad guys, he also understands the importance of stability. And sometimes those places are just kind of a loss, which is kind of how I think he treats the spoil. It's just a loss. As long as they're not burning everything down, whatever. Well, now they're burning everything down. This is now officially a problem. But then at the end, when he says he has other plans for the spoil, it's like, okay, what does that mean?
Does that mean speculation time?
I mean,
is it that? I mean, does he want to get just somebody better in there where he can control them more? Does he want to get in on that pay cut? Does he want to move in?
Does he want to expel the Valteri?
That could be. I mean, if we go for good things, maybe he's like, that's just step one. Step one in cleaning this place up. Step one in getting rid of all of these people that we want. Although when you look at the whole eco-deatho system that is the spoil, I don't know that getting rid of the Valteri and Sorokin was the best bet.
I mean, that's definitely what she wanted. But as for what...
Yes.
And we still don't really know why, right? Still don't really know what the cause was. Thought that was just very
about that.
Yeah. And so it's like we are kind of left with a lot of unknowns. No idea why she did it. No idea what Maddox's plans are. You know, what's going to happen with not Haska. Well, I guess kind of what's going to happen with Haska, but also what's going to happen with Melita. Because she's in a really interesting situation now. Yeah. And I have to say, like, I laughed really hard that Vasimov was throwing a fit. So he's like, I'm being blamed for everything. I did everything right. It's like, oh, pumpkin. You had no idea all the, mistakes that you made that she actually pointed out. Shouldn't do that. Don't do that. You're going to make things worse. Like, shut up, I know what I'm doing. And then things got worse. And then, yes, they all blamed him for it. He's like, well, I should have just kept her here and she couldn't have done anything. You mean she couldn't have solved the mystery? Like, you keeping her there was not going to solve the mystery. So it was, I don't know. That I thought was like the one justice. I thought that kind of happened was that he got blamed. So where did the Valteri go from here? Who's going to run the spoil now?
Yeah, basically everybody under Sorokin is dead.
Oh, right. Sates is missing. And, and Maddox was just like, we'll do our best to root them out, but not totally successful because I have my own plans. Like, well, what is that? Are you going to use Sates for something else? Are you using it for your own glory? Like, it's very, there's so many possibilities it could be that he's.
So many little things here. So let's talk really quick since we're still talking about our protagonists here. Let's talk about Haska. Were you invested in her journey?
I wasn't, but at the same time, it was like her stories, like I said earlier, that kind of hit me the most. And I think it's because it's kind of like getting a slice of life on Varangantua. Like, you want to know how bad things suck? Look at a day in Hasta's life, right?
Right.
These are the choices that she has to make. Like, but did I care if she lived or died? Not really. I mean, I would have been fine either way. I kind of think they almost took the coward's way out with her by letting her live. That's just my personal opinion. But at the same time, I also did like that, her mother was there and she's just like, oh my God, like, I can't let my mother even think I even care because I'm not good enough for her. Okay, great. You can choose to change that, but she refuses. But at the same time, she doesn't grow at the same time. She does and doesn't. It's a very interesting paradox with her. But I mean, on the whole, no. I was more interested in like, well, what, how are they going to, I was interested in her in as much as where's this revolution going and how is this going to work out? That was about really as far as I got with her. But like,
Yeah, I will say every time they went over to a Haska chapter, I was like, like for a really long time. But then, to your point, once you start to get deeper into the book, and she has that conversation in her mind, right, with her mom, and she's like, oh man, I should just stay here. I should not go. I should not get on that truck tonight. I should just stay here with my mom. But then I'm just going to work to death in some factory and I'm going to die a death that's slow and painful that I don't choose. At least with this, I can choose my death, right? And that was, I was like, oh man, okay. So if you're a young person in a hive world, this is pretty much your options. Do you go slave to death and die from some hacking cough or God knows what else from your poor food and water supply and the chemicals that you're inhaling? Or do you just go fast and hard and get killed in some gloriously violent way, right? That's
yeah.
very sad. And I do like the idea that you're not wrong. She gets to the end of the book and it's just like, oh man, yeah, like that was all kind of crazy. And, the guy who was leading our glorious revolution is nothing but another puppet for a different oligarch. And yet, her first thought is, they killed Lyra. Vengeance for Lyra. Like, the cycle of violence continues. Um, and you get the impression that with her character, she's just going to keep going until she gets killed, or I mean, essentially she'll become the next, oh my gosh, I just totally spaced her name. It's not Lysiana. That's actually a girl my daughter knows.
Leonida?
Leonida, thank you. That's her next future.
Right.
Right? Like, someday you'll be the woman inspiring other young little gang girls to join up in a fight in a glorious takedown of the spoil, right? Like, those are her options.
Well, and at the time, like,
Pretty grim.
Eddie tells Melita the same thing. It's like, it's your choice. You have a choice to make here. And she's like, well, what choice do I have? He's like, you have a choice. And that was like really probably the only brilliant moment Melita has is when she does make that choice and escapes.
Right.
And I was like, oh, she's making a turn. And then again, you get to the end. No, it's amazing how these people grow. But I can say that about everybody in this book, honestly. These people grow and yet don't at the same time.
But I think there's a commentary right there that, like, life in a hive is static.
Right.
You pretty much do the same thing day in and day out, no matter what it is, right? And maybe not literally like her mom goes to a factorum and does the same job every single day. She's going to rob some other group. She's posturing. She gets involved in a shootout. She goes into this battle. Like, it's different, but at the same day, it's basically wake up, violence, sleep. Wake up, violence, sleep. Until eventually she gets killed or miraculously dies of old age. Doubt that's going to happen for her. But, like, that's the stagnant life that these people live. It is brutal and hard, and yet they are all people with again, the Sonder was real here. All of these people were very much real characters, very flawed people who were just products of their surroundings.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about.
I do need to point out something really funny about Haska, though,
Hmm.
because I burst out laughing when this happened in the book. So later on in the book, around, let's see, page 408, she looks up and sees Lyra, and she's like, Lyra's the most beautiful person Haska's ever seen. I burst out laughing. Went back to the beginning of the book, and sure enough, page 23, Lyra and Haska look enough alike to be sisters. I'm like, so how vain are you? She looks just like me. She's the most beautiful person I've ever seen. I'm not sure he meant for
Yep.
that to be funny, but it cracked me up.
Well, because they had said that those two look alike. Katrin looks nothing like them.
Right. You know, because if you've seen the Loki TV show at all, it deals with time-displaced Lokis, and there's this one who's murdering all these people. Well, it's a female version of Loki. And so the Tom Hiddleston one falls in love with her, and at one point it's like Owen Wilson is just like, how vain are you? You have fallen in love with you. That's all I could think of here.
Yeah, that whole thing was, again, just bright and fast but short, because that's what these people's lives are, is just bright and short. So let's get to the assassination of Sorokin and all of the people involved here. Did they wrap up the whodunit and what is going on here well for you?
I still don't know who she is. Yeah, I got her name, and we know that she's a noble, but she's got some cause, and they talk about her eyes, and apparently the touch of her skin is also like not pleasant. So, and I found it very interesting because in the back of the book, because sometimes they'll do like excerpts from other books that are kind of similar. And what's in the excerpt of this one? Bloodlines. Is she part of the snake cult? I mean,
Is this all part of, yeah. Well, and she was kind of funny too. So I was irritated because I kept like, I'm not gonna lie, around page 380 or so, when I had about that much left in the book, I was like, where is this lady? Like, what is going on with her? We haven't seen anything with her. And then I get to page 400 and I'm like, okay, she's gonna be here any minute. No, oh no, not. Oh, there she is in the epilogue. What was the? Why though? Or are they trying to make a larger statement that when it comes to a hive world, there is always some cult and some weird stuff going on, and somebody with an agenda, and
it's just pointing to the Gilded, right?
Yeah.
And that's one way to look at it. It's just kind of pointing to the Gilded. Or
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into the Bloodlines inclusion in there, but all I could think of was like, is she part of this snake cult?
Which we know is alive and well on this planet. And sowing that type of chaos would not oobly woobly chaos, but just, anarchy. Sowing that type of anarchy there would go ways towards maybe concealing.
We still don't know her full plan. Because she said like things didn't go the way it was. Well, what was your thing? Was to get rid of the cartel? Was that your plan, or was there or did you just want everything to just burn? Were you going to come in and offer to buy everybody's property after it burns to the ground?
Day of. Sorry you lost your family. Can I buy your property?
Yeah.
Too soon? Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Again, mirroring real life.
Seriously.
Unintentionally, I'm sure. But what was her plan for the spoil? Like, does she need the spoil to not be there for some reason because she needs that land? She needs some people who were in power. She needs everybody. One of the things that I keep looking at
Or does she
is
just want to watch the world burn? I mean,
totally possible, or is something else going on? Is this the Kentucky, what is
well,
that, the Kentucky Shuffle, the Kentucky Two-Step,
well,
where
because
you
she
need everyone
mentioned,
to look over here because you're doing something over here?
well, she
Maybe?
mentioned a cause. It's like, what is this cause?
What is this cause? And
Was
they
it a
do
real
mention,
cause, or were you just duping these people into it?
right, because remember when he's talking about what, I can't think of his name right now. I'm like drawing a blank on all names this evening. But when
The general
yes, when he's
Ranich.
thinking and he's talking about his wife, right? He's like, "Oh, I discovered this through my wife." And at first I just thought it was kind of dumb, but like, how did she get an invitation to this? Oh, wait, no, this is interesting. And later Velis even says, she's like, "Oh, yeah, I just met through the spouse, and then just a little marital discontent got me right on in there where I wanted to be." Like, okay, but to what end? Again, why this? Like, is this step one? Is the second book in the series, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, from a little bit of meta commentary, but will the second book in the series then basically this will be like the background information to that? We're like, oh yeah, remember when we were doing all that stuff in that hive over there? Because over here we were doing something else.
You know, I don't know if there's going to be, because I'm having a beef with these Warhammer crime books. I love them, but we have so many that are like a character's name novel, and then we don't get a sequel. I'm looking at you, Chris, right? Or
So, okay, this was my meta commentary. You read my mind. This is the meta commentary I wanted to get into. Okay, this is the third or fourth book now that we have read that you were correct. A character's novel. Typically, to say that,
Guy Haley also
Kaivaskane,
wrote one too. That
huh?
Guy Haley wrote one too that really
Yeah.
set up for a nice sequel. Where's that? Um, like I look, I don't mind these random Warhammer crime books. I really don't. But don't put a person novel, because I'm like, okay, so where's the next one then? Because you saying that makes me think there's going to be more.
So, Mark, I had to go back and look on our site for this. So, um, obviously, Alec Worley, still love that book. Alec Worley he had already done an audio drama
I'm not
in.
counting the Baggett and Claude. Not
I'm gonna count that one though, because that
no
is
no no
clearly he's trying to build a story in
no.
there. So we
I
have
mean,
that.
with my beef. I'm
Oh
not
no, no,
counting.
I'm gonna include it in there because are we gonna get more books from them? So we have Baggett and Claude. We have the Quillen Drask novel,
That
Grimmer
was the other
Past,
one.
from Mark Collins. I have to go
That
back
was
here and
good.
look.
Was
That
it?
was good. And then we had the Guy Haley one, which I have to go to page 2 so that I can see the cover of the book. It's a Noctis and Lux novel. Okay,
Right.
there's
The
another
Night
one.
and Light.
Then we had Bloodlines, which was the Augusto Zukov, I think it was.
Zubov.
Something like that. They all have very, very Eastern European
Mm-hmm.
names. Augusto
Zidorov.
Zidorov
Okay.
novel. So that's 4 books that we've gotten. 5 if we want to put Melita Voronova in here. So that's now 5 series that we've essentially started. And yeah, do you know when we read Bloodlines by Chris Raitt? August 15th, 2020. It's been
I was about to
almost
say
exactly 3 years.
2019, but okay.
Yeah. So, and again, I get it. Like, everybody's busy, everybody's writing other stuff. And I know, I understand there's a lot of pressure on all of these people because I want new books. Um, and, I'm just saying I need more giant soulless babies in my life. Or maybe Lords of Silence 2 Electric Boogaloo. Just throwing this out there. However, I have the same beef. We keep getting these name novels
Mm-hmm.
and then nothing else comes out. Maybe a short story here and there. Okay, sure. But what is going on with the crime series?
I almost wonder, like, with these short story collections, if they're using that as, like, obviously they are, but they're using it as like a foundation for which ones do really well, and that from that will commission additional stories about this character, and that's fine and all, but We need some continuity at the same time because, like, if maybe what they're doing is that they're introducing various areas of Varangantua, because obviously none of these have taken place in the same region. That's fine. We still need some continuity going on here, like the next Augusta Zidorov, the next Noctis and Lux.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to call them the Nox. Just combine that all together.
Make him a celebrity couple.
Right. I mean, Nox also means night, so it just depends what language you're going to
Ave
use.
Dominus Nox.
Yeah, exactly. So,
No, I feel it. It's a thing that, and I also like, it's been, God, now I have to go back and pull up that page again where we had all of the Warhammer crime novels. So we go about a year in between novels.
Mm-hmm.
Flesh and Steel came out just a couple of months after Bloodlines because they clearly wanted to, like, hey, we have this new shiny toy, we want to show it off. But then Grimmer Past is almost exactly a year afterward, and Wraithbone Phoenix was almost exactly a year.
With the Warhammer horror series too, right?
I was just about to say it does mirror the horror series a little bit. And I don't know why. The Warhammer Crime one, I don't understand in particular because that one, what was the last horror novel that we even read?
Deacon of Wounds?
No, it was The Bookkeeper's Skull in March of last year. So we're actually due another horror novel because Deacon of Wounds was March of 2021. And then there was The Reverie.
No, there wasn't. I forgot what I was going to say.
And Requiem Infernal.
No, there wasn't. Yeah, I just totally
forgot. And Sepulturum. Oh, and the Oubliette and the Watcher in the Rain was so good.
Yeah, but that was all the early stuff, though, when they put out a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes, they put out a bunch of stuff. The Way Out by Rachel Harrison was excellent. And then that would hit me so hard in the feels.
What about Necromunda? What's going on with Necromunda? Is that just dead?
Oh my goodness. The last book that came out in Necromunda, I think, might have been... I have the Underhive Anthology, and then there was the one, I can picture the cover, it has What's-Her-Face on it. I own it.
But it's like, it's almost like they get really hot and heavy, like, up front with these series, and then they just die. And it's like, but people might have liked those, because I think people like the Necromunda series. People like the horror. People like the crime.
Now I have to go and look for Necromunda and see when the last book that came out, and that was because that was one again. They did. They had a bunch of stuff that came out. They had Fire Made Flesh. They had Soulless Fury was the one that I was trying to think of the name of because I could picture her on the cover. They had all kinds of stuff. They had the Cal Jericho Sinner's Bounty, which if you haven't read that was amazing. They did Road to Redemption. And they came out with like another like big one, Terminal Overkill by Justin D. Hill. That one was actually kind of fun too. And then it just kind of went away.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think you're right. I think they get so wrapped up in, oh, hey, guess what? Something new's happening in the campaign. Crank out those books super, super quick. And then they kind of just forget to go back to some of the other stuff that they had been working on. It makes for a very disjointed experience. Warhammer Horror and Crime also have, like, they're in the top rail of the Black Library site. Probably because I think Warhammer Horror at least has, like, they can also do stuff. I forgot that they've had a couple of books that came out in the fantasy world, but
makes sense.
Who cares about that, am I right?
Age of Sigmar, Age of Sucks, right?
Bring back the old world. We love Age of Sigmar just as much as the other person. My husband is currently playing Total Warhammer 3 again. So very, very much into the old world mentality right now. But yeah, like the Warhammer Crime, I just want to see like the next Warhammer Crime book for me personally, needs to be Chris Wright's next Augusto Zukov book.
Zedorov, whatever his name is.
Sidorov, Zuka. I keep wanting to call him Zuka,
Augusta
like he's
Z.
the
All right.
World War II hero. Played by Jason Isaacs, let's be real.
The probator that we wish was actually having an affair.
Oh my god! That's what I need to see the rest of that! Sorry, my family just came home, so I needed to tell them to close the door, and there's a hanger on the door. Children are a blessing. So, anyways, we have I just want that next book to come out. That's what I want next. I wouldn't complain about another one of these, but can we please go back to Augusto?
Or just any of them. Another Baggett and Claude, another Knox, another don't remember the Mark Collins name, but any of them. I'm fine. Instead of a new one.
I literally just said it too, and I can't remember it now either. It's Quillian Drask.
I was about to say, I think it's got a Q in there somewhere.
Quentin Tarantino, something like that. I would not complain to more Baggett and Claude stories. That would be.
I'll take anything.
I'll take all of them. Yeah, same. There appears to be a lot of short stories, but by God, man. I need to start reading more of their short story collections. I feel really bad about that.
I do too. I'm reading I don't know, feel sorry for me, guys. I'm just reading so much right now.
First world problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
I still haven't written up The Crimson King, and I finished it 2 weeks ago. Because that's just where things have been.
But I like the crime series because, again, I really like the idea of the hive worlds. I love Necromunda as a setting. I love Varangantua. I love how noir it is, grim noir.
I just love good whodunits, and they've all been very good whodunits.
I like a good murder mystery. I like a good crime story. I really liked the Baggett and Claude one. I need more of this in my life. It can't all be Spess Marines and violence and Nids and Necrons. And although our next book is going to be not Spess Marines, but it's going to be Imperial Guard, and I have no doubt, something.
And
Necrons.
Tau.
Oh, is it Tau again?
It's Tau. Not Nids.
Well, do you remember that one book that we read that was about the Cadians and the Tau, and then it ended up being all about the Flayers? And they had a dinner party with a Necron?
Oh, right. That's such a good book.
I want everyone to know that as Kazarkin will forever be the book where the Cadians had a dinner party with a Necron.
Yes. The Cadians and the Kroot.
Yes.
Cadians and the Kroot walked into a bar.
Walked into a they don't call them pyramids, but walked into a Necron pyramid and had a dinner party. Mm-hmm. And the food wasn't that bad. But no, we were reading Longshot.
But he apologized and brought him back.
What even was that book? The Tower in there for 10 minutes. Anyways, but now we're reading about the Cadians and the Tau again in a book called Longshot by Rob Young. I'm really excited to get another Astra Militarum novel. It's been a while since we've had one, and we've really enjoyed most of just the Astra Militarum novels.
Was it
so
Catachan Devil? The last official one?
That might have been, yeah.
Oh, please. I'm gonna look. Oh, they don't even have a... Yeah, there we go. Outgunned. That's what it was.
Outgunned. I had to think about that one for a second. It was Outgunned. That was fun. I mean, we've had a good.
Witchbringer was good.
Witchbringer is the one that I was thinking of. Was the Witchbringer one? I liked that one.
Actually, they've all been good. I liked Krieg. I liked Witchbringer. I liked Steel Tread. I liked Catachan Devil. I liked Outgunned.
Obviously, we've enjoyed all of the Caiaphas Cain books, which technically fall into that. Kazarkin, Catachan Devil. Yeah, those ones were fun too. Krieg.
Yeah, Kazarkin's not listed on here, and that's a shame. But
Volpone Glory, Steel Tread,
Oh god, Volpone Glory was so good.
Honor Bound, of which I need more Severina Rain in my life.
Do you need more Severina Rain?
It's been 4 years though, so just saying.
But now we get what? Snipers and Tau.
Snipers and Tau. Oh my! I'm excited for it. Should be a good return to form here after our little stint in the Warhammer Crime universe. Hopefully we get
another new author. So new author.
That's true too. Yeah, new author. I'm kind of digging it. I'm kind of digging the new authors. This has been a good thing. Hopefully it won't lead us as astray as the last one. Anyway, it's not important right now. Throwing that out there. Well, we're here, and it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Do you want to take us out, Carrie?
I suppose that I will. So you've listened to the Warhammer 40k Book Club episode regarding The King of the Spoil by Jonathan D. Beer. Be sure to join us next time for Long Shot by Rob Young. I don't know why that tongue-tied me, but I didn't even drink any wine tonight. We are an unofficial book club and not affiliated with the Black Library or any of its affiliates. You can find both the vidcast and podcast on our website, WH40kbookclub.com. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, give a review, and all those good things to the vidcast on YouTube or the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Our site also has articles about our adventures and reading other Warhammer 40k books and short stories outside of the book club books. So please stay a while and read from a crag. I'm not Alfarius today because I'm too tired. Taking a day off.
I got nothing clever tonight either.
Yeah,
really.
Your chartreuse is still hidden, so you can't even point to it anymore.
I know, the chartreuse has gotten shuffled down. I do have the Fall of Cadia over there, and let me tell you guys, that limited special box thing weighs almost as much as my cast iron pan.
Yeah, so
get you a murder book.
So like mine is on this shelf right here, and you can't see it right now, but it's so heavy it's actually making that shelf bow a little bit, and I have to move it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a big hunker. We should have done an unboxing for that. I guess we could still go back and do an unboxing for it.
I took pictures and put them on Instagram, right, so there's your unboxing, people.
Get you some murder book. That's all I got on that one.
Some murder book.
Get big.
Yeah.
Get big.
Get some murder.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.